Solutions. John, why don't you start off?
I'm John Karishkat. I'm with AAG, American Advisors Group. We help people access some of the equity in their property to pay for a lot of the services of this whole conference.
Okay, so home care services, and
Home care
any
services,
assisted living services, any kind of thing that you might need that you have to normally pay out of pocket.
remodeling, whatever's necessary. Absolutely.
Okay, and we'll talk more about that. We'll get into how that works and also probably bust some of the myths. I know there's a lot of myths around reverse mortgages, but we want to bust some of those. Natasha, welcome and thank you for being on the conference today. Tell us what you do and who you are and a little bit about your services.
Sure. Thank you guys for having me with you this afternoon. My name is Natasha LaCour. I am a social worker. I am currently the program manager of the Caregiver Support Program here at the Michael E. DeBakey VA Medical Center in Houston, Texas. So I would love to share a little bit more information with the audience about the VA and some of our programs and services that you may or may not be familiar with. But I've been a social worker here at the VA for 14 years this month. So glad to be here with you all today.
And Darren, Care Partners also offers some opportunities and services that can help people. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, so we've talked a little bit about it earlier, but Care Partners, I work for Care Partners. We're a nonprofit organization here in Houston. All of our services are free of charge to attend and participate in. We have four main programs, Gathering Place, Common Ground, Second Family, and then Caregiver Education. So we put on conferences and workshops just like this. And then we have our Gathering Place program, which is a respite program for people with memory loss. So because of COVID, we've had to change how we do things a little bit, but we still have all four of our different programs in different ways that we're doing. And we're actually so happy to start getting slowly back into the in-person events. We had our first church do an in-person gathering place last week. They followed safety guidelines and limited number of people, and we're doing everything because our number one priority obviously is to keep everyone safe. But we know that the isolation and not having respite and all these things can hurt just as much in some ways. So we're working as best as we can and with each individual location to slowly get back up started. So we have lots of different things, and if any other questions, I'd be happy to help.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, I just want to say the gatherings is such a huge resource for caregivers out there. So I'm glad to hear that they're starting slowly to come back. I know that's going to help so many people because it gives caregiver a little break. They get about 3.5 hours that they can go get a cup of coffee with a friend, go to the doctor, go take a nap, whatever they need to do or want to do. And they know that their loved one is not only safe, but they're being entertained and they're being fed and they're being taken care of. And that's huge. That's huge. So that's wonderful. I'm Catherine Watson with Find Houston Senior Care. And I just try to find all these wonderful people and find ways to showcase them so that they can tell you about the services they have to offer. My company doesn't offer services per se to the senior or to the caregiver other than these caregiver conferences and other educational venues, but we offer resources as far as helping you to find the information that you want. So that's Find Houston Senior Care. And Darren, if it's okay, I'll just start off with a question for John.
Yeah, absolutely.
So John, you and I've had this conversation many times because I'm a huge proponent of reverse mortgages. And I know there's a lot of misconception about reverse mortgages. It got a really bad name. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and how things have changed? And I'd also, after you do that, I want to tell people kind of what my experience was with it.
Sure. Well, reverse mortgage is just a loan. That's all that it is. It's just a loan against your property, but it puts you in charge as to whether you want to make payments or not make payments. 10, 15 years ago, yes, it's it's always been a good product, a good loan. But 10, 15 years ago, there were some loopholes. And there were some unscrupulous brokers and, frankly, some unscrupulous borrowers, and some people got hurt. The government has done something right, and they've come along and they've made some major changes in 2013, 2015, 2017, all for the benefit of the consumer, all for the protection of the consumer. So now it's just a loan. All the bad stuff has been legislated out. It's not there anymore. And now it's just a way that people can borrow money against their property and use it to pay for whatever they want, whatever they need to pay for, whatever they want to pay for. It's your house you've been working for your house for 20 years. Isn't it time your house worked for you? That's kind of what a reverse mortgage does. It allows you to borrow some of the equity. Right now, if you don't mind a statistic, last that I heard is that there are $7.5 trillion worth of equity tied up in people's over 65's people's real estate. And quite literally, it's buried in the backyard. It's something you can't usually touch. We allow people to access that money. We help them to borrow it. And again, you don't have to make any payments unless you want to. If you want to make payments, great. I mean, there are 100 different ways that people use reverse mortgages, but basically it's a way to borrow some of the equity in your property to retire better, to have a better lifestyle, to eliminate that mortgage payment if you have a mortgage right now, to pay for things, to reduce the stress, to make life easier. That's kind of what it's all about, is to make life easier.
Okay, great. So I told you I was going to tell a little bit about my experience. My dad set up a reverse mortgage years ago. He's passed away in 2005, so it was quite a while back that he set it up. But I thank God every day that he did, because it was what allowed us to keep my mom in her home. And that's what all of the kids, and that's what my mom wanted, was to stay in her own home till the very end. And we could not have done it if he hadn't set up the reverse mortgage. Their funds were limited, and the reverse mortgage allowed us to pay for a caregiver to come in and help. My sisters and I took turns, and we took the weekend shifts because we all were still working, right? And had to continue working, and two of us lived out of town. So we would come back and forth on the weekends, and we had a caregiver that came during the week, and we had to pay that caregiver. And any of you that hired a caregiver, you know it's not cheap. It takes a lot of money, and mother needed 24/7 around the clock care. She was bed bound. So somebody had to be there 24/7. So that paid for that. And for that, I'm forever grateful, and will always tout the wonderful services of reverse mortgages. So yay.
Yours is a perfect example of how people can use the money and how it made your life better, made your parents' life better.
And I'll also point out, before that happened, Mom and Dad lived so much better because they were no longer paying a mortgage on their house. And that extra money just kind of loosened up things and made it more relaxed. And my dad was very frugal and very careful with his money. So he didn't tap into the funds of the reverse mortgage unless the air conditioner broke, or a water pipe busted, or something big. And then he knew that he had funds to pay for it. And that took a lot of stress off of them. So that was good.
Reverse mortgages, there are many different ways that you can take money out. You can take a line of credit, which is what your parents did. So the money is there and it's available whenever you need it. It's your money. You might as well be able to use it.
Absolutely. Natasha, I definitely want to talk to you. My parents were not veterans, so we did never explore that. But I know from working with different people in this industry and working with, helping families, I used to help families a lot, that this is a huge service. And there's a lot of VA benefits that people don't even know exist. So can you talk to us about some of those?
Yes, I definitely can. I'll share a little bit about my program specifically. That's the one that I'm most familiar with. That's the one that I work day in and day out. And I'm honestly most excited about how this program can help many of our veterans and caregivers in the community. I'm the program manager for caregiver support. And the caregiver support program at the VA has two components. One of the components of the primary program is the program of comprehensive assistance for family caregivers. And just to basically give you a little bit of information about it, this program comes with a stipend for the caregiver to assist with the veteran that's staying at home. And it's a huge benefit to that family if the veteran is staying at home and the caregiver has a stipend that they could use in order to help maintain them staying at home a little bit longer. There's criteria for the program, and initially, when the program first began, it was for veterans OIF, OEF, so our younger veterans that were severely injured 2011 and on. In October of last year, the program expanded to include veterans that served and were severely injured May 7th, 1975 and prior. So that's going to include all of our older veterans that may have served in Vietnam, Korea, and we actually have some World War II veterans that are currently in our program. So the main criteria that I want the audience to know to be eligible for the caregiver support program at the VA is that you have to have served during one of those eras. So I kind of look at it at two ends of the spectrum. One is the younger veteran, and that's September 11th and beyond. And one is our older veterans, May 7th, 1975 and before. So if you have a severe injury, and basically what that means is if you have a service-connected disability of 70% and higher, you're eligible for this program for one part of it. The second piece is you have to have a need for a caregiver. So we have many loved ones at home and we assist them with maybe medications or making meals. But to be in our program for this approved caregiver support, it's a little bit more extensive care than that. So we try to frame it as though if the caregiver was not in the home, the veteran would be in a higher level of care, like an assisted living facility or a nursing home. So they're providing that 24 hours, 7 days a week care for activities of daily living, such as grooming, bathing, feeding, toileting. They're really hands on. So that program has been really beneficial to help a lot of our families stay at home and feel comfortable knowing that they're there caring for their loved ones. We also have a general program that's open to veteran caregivers of any era. And with that program, we provide a lot of education. We have support groups. We send motivational texts. So that's more of a resource and referral program. But the highlight of our program is really the comprehensive program where we can assist the caregiver with a stipend to be able to care for their veteran and loved one at home. And that's kind of in a nutshell what my program does. And with that, we do make home visits. Of course, with COVID, we haven't been able to do that face to face. So we're doing some of those virtual visits now. But we're a liaison for the veteran and the caregiver. So we help them with connecting with their doctors in the hospital and just anything that we can do to help and relieve caregiver stress, burnout, and so that the veteran can stay at home and be as independent as possible.
Wow, I did not know that even existed. So thank you for that. Learn something new every day. I love that. That's why I love having these conferences. This is great. So let me understand. I want to make sure I got this correct. They need to be a veteran, number one, in one of those periods that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Number two, they need to have had a injury that was sustained during their period of serving in the military, correct?
Yes, yes. And most people will be familiar with it, like service-connected disability. You'll hear that a lot in the veteran community, so they know exactly what that is if you're a veteran. And it could be a combined rating, so it could be PTSD 50% and migraines of 30%, and you got a combined of 80. So as long as it's a combined rating of 70% or higher, then that would be one of the criteria for our program.
Okay. And now is this open? You are here in Houston. Is
Yes.
this open all over the country or is this just
Yes. Yes, it's open all over the country. So all of the VAs have a caregiver support program.
Okay.
And this is just one program at the VA that can help caregivers and veterans stay at home. So I can talk about a few other programs a little bit later, but this is the one that I did want to share because I work in.
I'm so glad you did. I'm so glad you did because I learned something new as well. Kayla is asking, does VA benefits extend to a veteran's spouse?
Well, for this program, which really makes it wonderful and different, the stipend is paid directly to the caregiver. So that could be the spouse. So if a veteran is service connected and they're receiving that service connected benefit, it doesn't conflict with that. So they will continue to receive that service connected benefit, and the spouse, who could be the caregiver, it could be a daughter, anyone over the age of 18 that meet the qualifications to be a caregiver, because they also have to go through our caregiver training program, but they would receive the stipend. It would go directly to that caregiver.
Okay. And you said
excuse me,
monthly type?
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, somebody else was speaking.
it's Kayla.
Yeah.
So I want to expand on my question. So my father is the veteran, and he's actually the healthy one. It's my mother who is disabled. So what I meant, does it extend to the spouse? So in this situation, my father is the caregiver. He's the veteran. My mother is the disabled party.
Not at this time. At this time, the stipend is only for the caregiver that's the non veteran. So if your mother was also a veteran, then yes, but right now it's only for the veteran, unfortunately.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
But there are other programs that do cover the spouse, right?
No, not for the spouse, only for the veteran. So you have to be a veteran to be able to participate in these services. My program is different though with the caregiver support. So if the spouse was not a veteran, then this would go directly to that caregiver. But unfortunately, as in Ms. Kayla's situation, the person that is needing assistance is the spouse. So we don't have assistance for the spouse. For the veteran, her father or the other party, we do have support groups. It's just not a financial piece that we would be able to assist with in that way. We can help them with educational classes of the sort.
But Latasha, what about aid and attendance? Wouldn't that cover the caregiver spouse?
Aid and attendance is about the veteran. So the veteran is still about the veteran. It has to be the veteran.
Actually, it won't. It will cover a spouse.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
A surviving spouse. There's a new for 2000.
Oh, yes. That,
for 2021, right. There was a new addition made for a spouse that needs care of an existing veteran. And there are other qualification criteria required for that. So it's new. That's why it's kind of unknown. A new addition. Yep.
Okay, thanks, Troy. Thanks for piping in on that. We all learn from one another, and things change and new things come up, and it's great. But Latasha, thank you so much for telling us about this new program that you have as well. So
there was a question. So how does someone get started if they want to apply, and is there a website? I think I found the website. I just wanted to make sure it's correct. It's the caregiver.va.gov, correct?
Yes, that is correct. And what is really good about the website, you can do it online. It's maybe 2 or 3 pages, and it's basic demographic information that you would have to know. So the main thing was just knowing the era, the time period that the veteran served, but you submit that application and it comes directly to us. Now, with the expansion that occurred in October of this year, it is taking us a little bit longer because we received a huge volume of interest of people that are interested in the program. So we're working on expanding our staff to meet the need of all the new applications that we received. So it's taken us about 90 to 120 days to process those applications at this time, but we do encourage you to apply online. And that is the correct website to go. And there's tons of other information too about different programs that we have at the Caregiver VA website.
Okay, Kayla says she has a question for John. Go ahead, Kayla. You can unmute yourself if you'd like to speak.
Okay, yeah, I'll unmute. John, can you give us an example, like for instance, say my parents' house is fully paid for, say it's the market value is $300,000 right now, and say they wanted to do a reverse mortgage for $150,000, but they don't want to stop, they don't want to make any payments. And then does that 150 just start accruing interest until the children, once they pass, then the children start making payments? Or how does that work?
Good question. I can understand what you're asking. Basically, yes, with the reverse mortgage, there's a limited amount that we can lend somebody, and the numbers that you mentioned seem to work pretty well. But yes, if they don't want to make any payments, the loan is accumulating interest each and every month. So it is growing. When the last person leaves the property, by the way, even if one person were to die, the spouse can still live in the property forever and not have to make any payments. But when the last person leaves the property, then the property still belongs to the family or to their heirs. And the heirs have several choices. They can pay off the loan, and keep the property. They can sell the property, which of course pays off the loan. Or if they really need to, they could turn it over to the lender. There have been several times when kids have said, we don't want to deal with this anymore, we're done. They turn the keys over to the lender. The lenders, by law, can only keep what's owed on the property. So there have been times when the lender has sold the property, paid off the loan, and sent a check back to the kids, because all the equity always still belongs to the family.
So what's the going interest rate on a reverse mortgage?
It's depends, but right now we're very competitive with normal mortgages. Normal mortgages are running what, 2 2.75, almost 3, and we're right in that same ballpark.
But one other question. So, but if the children, they're going to inherit the house, could they start making payments on that loan, like a regular payment, or would they have to pay it all in one big lump sum?
Actually, no, they can't make payments, because the reverse mortgage is only for the seniors that lived in the house. And the children would have to refinance into their name or do whatever they need to do. However, we're not going to just immediately kick somebody out.
Right.
It takes about a year, or, with extensions. I'm sorry, I thought I turned that off. With extensions, you can take about a year to decide what you're going to do with it. And, so you have plenty of time. You don't have to, get out right away. There's plenty of time to figure out what you're going to do to get your finances in line. Reverse mortgage, by the way, is a non-recourse loan. So even if for some reason the world went upside down and you wound up owing more than what the property's worth, nobody could ever come after anybody and say, oh, you owe us money. That's one of the provisions of a reverse mortgage, is that no one's going to come after you and say you owe us any money. It's, it's always there. They can stay as long as they want. And yes, it is accumulating interest. And FHA has HUD, because it is government insured loan, is an FHA loan, and FHA kind of runs the numbers to make sure that probably people are not going to run out of equity. They're not going to be upside down.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I can speak to that as well, because with my mom, we used just about every last penny that we had in the reverse mortgage to pay for her care. And when she passed away, the housing market was upside down. It was terrible. It was 2011. We still hadn't recovered from the crash, and it just wasn't good. So houses were not selling, and they were selling for much lower. We just gave it back to the mortgage company. There were 6 kids. We figured if we got anything out of the house, it would be pennies anyway by the time we divided it between all 6 of us. So we gave it back. It was a simple, easy process. No hassles. It was great. Best thing we ever did.
Yeah, no one is responsible for any extra money. And in your case, because 2008, 2009, equity disappeared, but so you didn't know anything.
Mm-hmm.
If there had been equity, you would have gotten a check to split 6 ways, but you would have gotten a check.
Yeah. Okay, so Darren, how much more time do we have?
I think we we still have about 15 minutes in this session till the next breakout rooms. So we still have time for a
Anybody
few more
that has any
questions.
questions, please feel free. Please feel free. I also want to bring up a resource that some of you may not know about that can help to pay for home care, and that is a organization called Hilarity for Charity, and I'll put it in the chat. But it's Hilarity for Charity, and they actually, you can go in and apply for services, and they may, approve you and pay for, services around the clock sometimes, services 2 or 3 times a week. So they can pay for a lot of your services. It's just a wonderful nonprofit organization that's been set up to help families, to help caregivers. So I'm going to put that in the chat now. And if there's anybody out there like Troy, if you know of any other resources that we need to bring out in this conversation, please feel free to jump in here. We're all learning from one another. That's what this is all about. It's not about one person's the expert. We're all learning from one another. So. Okay, it's Hilarity for Charity. Oops, I did it only to John. Let me put it to the group.
That sounds like another good source for money to pay to allow people to stay at home.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's the whole key, is that everybody wants to stay at home. Nobody really wants to go to a facility right now.
Yes.
If we allow people to stay at home, then so much the better. You get a better lifestyle, you get a better care, you get people live longer and less doctor visits just by staying at home.
Natasha, do you have any other programs that you wanted to talk about? You mentioned earlier that there were some other ones.
Yes, actually, there's a couple other programs that are veteran specific that I would just like to highlight. So if anyone is caring for a veteran, to make sure that they know a little bit more about. First, there's the respite program. So I know most of us here are pretty familiar with respite, but when you need someone to help care for the veteran so that way you can care for yourself, we have respite care here at the VA. And the way to have respite care is to get in contact with a social worker here. Every veteran is eligible for respite care at the hospital, and it could be done in the community. So it could be done at one of our VA contract nursing homes. Respite care could be provided also here at our VA facility. It's a little bit smaller unit here where they can provide that, or it could be in-home respite care. So there's been a little bit of a change in that program, but primarily just to know how to access that is every veteran is assigned a prime care physician at the VA, and every prime care physician has a social worker in that department. So they would just need to speak to their assigned social worker and let them know that they're interested in that respite care, and then they'll get a certain amount of hours per calendar year that you're allowed to have respite care. So that's just one small benefit that I am familiar with that can help many of our caregivers out there as well. There's also Homemaker Home Health Aid. Homemaker Home Health Aid is being able to have someone come in the home and assist with activities of daily living. So if your veteran is needing assistance with grooming, bathing, dressing, toileting, all of those types of issues, the doctor can place an order for home health services where someone can come in and help with cleaning the house, help with laundry, making meals, things of that nature. And that's something that's been a huge benefit to many of our veterans and caregivers in the community. I would say the hours range between 6 to 12 hours a week. It really just depends on the severity or the need of the veteran. But again, the doctor would place an order for Homemaker Home Health Services, and the social worker would assist with completing an assessment to learn a little bit more about the needs for the veteran. And then that way they can have someone come in the home and help them with that. So those are just two of the ones that I'm familiar with that could be of some assistance. The third program is Veterans Directed. Let me make sure I'm speaking this one clearly because I'm not as familiar with it, but I know that it's very helpful. But it's called Veterans Directed Care. And basically what it is, it's for veterans that if it were not for the caregiver, they would be in a higher level of care. Like with my program, they would have a care services, all their care services at home. But the goal of the Veterans Directed Care Program is to provide veterans at risk of nursing home placement or institutionalization an opportunity to receive care at home. So the target population is, like I said, veterans that are almost needing that nursing home level of care, but they have to have some type of disability and they are not able to stay at home. So that's when we come in and surround them with the team. It's sort of like home-based care where you have that doctor, you have that nurse to kind of come in and assist with all those levels of care at home. So that's called Veterans Directed Care. And the way to access that is also through your social worker here at the VA. So it is National Social Workers Month. So I
Yes,
just kind
it
of like
is.
to highlight that social workers are essential and they're your key to really learning more about the services at the VA. Sometimes things change, sometimes there are new programs, but if you're needing help at home, if you're having some challenges with care, please reach out to us, reach out to your social worker here so that way we can connect you with the most up-to-date resources that can assist you and your loved one at home.
You know, if we have learned nothing else from this conference, I hope you've all learned how valuable the social worker is. So reach out, ask your doctor, talk to them, ask to speak to the social worker. So, so important. And you have to ask. You have to ask for what you want. And if you don't know what you want, talk to the social worker because they can help direct you and guide you and tell you about things that you didn't know even existed. So Latasha, thanks for that. Those are some other programs that I wasn't aware of. So it's so good to know for all of these. Now on the one that you were just talking about for the respite and all of that, is that only for the veteran and do they have to have had an injury during their service?
No, no injury, but it is only for the veteran. And so
Okay.
all of those would be assessment based. So like I said, when they meet with their doctor, if the doctor says, yes, you know what, this is great, they'll place an order for it. And then the social worker or the nurse on the team, they'll complete that assessment to make sure they get those services. But I really want to encourage our caregivers to talk and let us know what's going on. This year with the Caregiver Support Program, we're doing a lot of education around inclusive care. And the main concept of inclusive care is realizing the value of our caregivers and the information that they have and how important that is to the treatment team. Many times our veterans will come to the hospital and lately they have been alone because of COVID. But now things are opening up and the caregiver or loved one is coming with them. And the information that the caregiver provides just really creates a better picture of what's going on at home. Sometimes we all know as patients, oh yeah, I slept, I ate, I did everything right. But with the concept of inclusive care and making sure you're including that caregiver in the conversation, you really get a better picture of what's going on. And when you know what's going on at home, we can come up with better treatment plans. So that's something that we're encouraging our caregivers to do. Talk, let us know what's going on so that we can know how best to help.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you.
I wanted to touch on one of the comments. I think, Catherine, when you sent the link, it didn't go out to everybody. If you'd mind sending the Hilarity to Charity link again.
I thought I sent it again to everybody. I'll do
You
it.
may have to, it might be a personal message. You may have to switch to everyone, send to everyone.
Yeah, I thought I did that. I sent it the first time, only one, but let me send it again.
And then another question was, with all these services, they must have a VA physician?
Yes, yes. It is very important that the care is established here so that way we know what's going on with the treatment. A lot of it is physician centered, so the doctor will be the one to place the order for that. With the caregiver support program, we encourage you to follow up with Care Here, but if you don't follow up with Care Here, we do ask for more information about your history and diagnosis as well. But at some point, we do encourage you to be able to have your established care here so that we can follow you. And again, a lot of the times, the doctors are the ones that are going to be placing those orders for the things that you need at home.
Great. So we still do have a few more minutes left. If anybody has any questions that they want to ask.
I do.
Yeah.
On the reverse mortgage, if the patient has to go to a home, if you can't keep him at home, if you have to take him to a home, can you still borrow against the property? And can the spouse live in the home in the meantime?
A good question. Yes, in Texas, both the husband and the wife, the spouse, are on the reverse mortgage, and the reverse mortgage is good until the last person leaves the property. So even if one has to go into a home or facility, then the reverse mortgage is still good and still valid for the person that's staying there. And as long as there's money left on the line of credit, then they can still borrow it. So that money is always there. They can borrow it. They can do whatever they want with it. So it's always protection for the spouse.
So they could use that money, John, to pay for the assisted living or the nursing home or wherever they needed to go, right?
That is true too. Yes, absolutely.
As long as there's still one spouse that's living in the house.
Right. And as long as no one is vacated the house for over a year. So if somebody has to go in for a broken hip or something and they're in a facility for a couple of months, no big deal, as long as they're not out of the house for a full year. So it's very flexible.
So the spouse has to live in the house while the patient is in a home, is in a nursing home.
As long as the house is not vacant for a year, then there's no problem.
Okay.
Somebody else sent a message directly to me. They said, just mentioned home health services. Are these for veterans? I think they must be talking to Natasha. Are you still there, Natasha?
It's been a long week. I forgot.
Oops. I think Natasha has left for a minute. Maybe she'll come back, hopefully, and answer that question. Let me see if there's anything else.
Yes, I think there was another veterans question. So, Natasha?
So you think you will find it?
Natasha, are you able to join us again? We have some questions for you, please. Okay. Oh, there she is. Great. Okay.
Just a second. I'm sorry about that. I am in the office today and the office is busy. I apologize. I'm sorry. Can I have that question again?
Yeah. You can read yours first, Catherine. I think there was a couple.
This one was just, they said, just mentioned home health services. Are these only for veterans?
Yes, I'm sorry. Everything that I'm speaking to will be directly related to the care of the veteran. So yeah, at the VA hospital, that's where most of the services that I'm familiar with will be of most assistance, is care for the veteran.
Okay, great.
And then another question was, can I, as the vet's daughter, care in-home for my non-vet mom? Dad has passed.
No, again, the Caregiver program, that particular program that comes with the stipend, if that's what you're asking about, would be for the care of the veteran. Now, as Mr. Troy, I think, mentioned earlier, there may be some options there with the aid and attendance if Dad was a veteran. And I did put the link to the aid and attendance in the chat a little bit earlier. So that would be some information to follow up on as well.
I'll go ahead and repost that, but yes, you did post that.
And we have put links. There's information to connect with John. Latasha's information is in there. We've got all kinds of links and information If you get out of this conference though, and you don't have that information and you want it, reach out to myself or Darian. We'll be happy to get the information that you're wanting. Just reach out to us through the conference and say, hey, I want to talk to that person. Can you help me? We'll connect you. Okay. So.
Just wanted to let everybody know that I am here in the Houston area, by the way. So, by all means, I'd love to just answer any questions that anybody has. Just give me a call. I mean, a lot of what I do, a lot of what everybody does in this conference is education. So that's what we're here for.
John, I was away for a bit, and I don't know if somebody asked you this or not. What's the deal with Tom Selleck in the background?
Tom is the spokesman for the company that I work for. He apparently believes very much in reverse mortgages. I doubt that he has one himself, but but he does believe in it, and he is the spokesman for the company that I work for.
Oh, I have seen some of those commercials. Yes, thank you.
Yes, you have. So.
Well, I think it's
he
almost
just kind of sits
time.
back there and doesn't bother anybody. He just
He's just a fun friend. So I think it's about time to open up into the caregiver chat room. So if you two don't mind hanging around in this room, maybe if people have some further questions, I'm not sure if anybody will. But we're going to have a great activity circle with Jake Trione. He's going to give us a fun little exercise. And then the other caregiver chat room is also another really great one. So it's going to be hard to pick which one. But the other one is going to be crafting a plan, staying at home with dementia. So that's going to be a really good one too. And that's going to be Andrea Zati is going to be joining us for that one. So